Nicole here. How are you? I hope you're well. I wanted to pop on to make a video. Hopefully not too much, not a long one, I don't think. I don't know. Um, and it's going to be a serious one. So if you don't like my more serious content, then I recommend that you don't watch this video. But if you don't mind, um, then yeah, like I don't mind to have you here with me. So in the metaphorical sense, of course, because I don't actually know who you are and I can't see you and I have no idea what you think or feel about me. So, okay. Um, I'm going to talk about heartbreak. I had a really significant experience in my life regarding a relationship that I had um, that was very, very impactful into my life. Some of the consequences of that relationship were okay or good, even, but most of them were very detrimental to my well being. And I have been carrying around some trauma around this for a significant amount of time. And I want to talk about it so that I can rewatch it and see how I feel. Um, so I'm going to talk about it. So I met somebody about 4 or 5 years ago who I really liked, and some things from my past really set me up for for being vulnerable to this, I guess. I really liked this person a lot, and I was in a place in my life where I felt lonely but optimistic about the future. I was lonely, but I was very, very optimistic, and I was just finishing my undergrad degree and kind of getting ready and geared up to entering into the workforce, which is a whole scary thing and a very big, difficult transition. I found it very, very challenging, and I still do. Um, so I met him, and it was like love at first sight for me. Like, he was he was the most beautiful man I've ever seen in my life. I remember the very first time I saw him, actually, it's kind of a funny story, but I was sick and he came to my door because he was had a meeting with my one of my family members for something, and um I didn't know we were having a guest coming over to our house. So I was really sick. Like I'm just gonna talk bluntly. Like, this is funny to me. I had I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. It's not a big deal. I had my period, and I also had a bit of the flu, and it was like a Saturday at 2 p.m. and I wasn't dressed, and I was actually just wearing a house coat with nothing underneath at all, and I just had a shower um, to try and get rid of like a period cramp, I think. And so I hear the doorbell ring. Well, I was sick, but I was also bored, and I like to play like these little games with myself. So like if anyone ever knocks on the door, I like to guess who it is. Usually it's somebody selling chocolate, like a juvenile selling chocolate to better themselves, or it's a Jehovah Witness selling the good news, or maybe it's the weed man trying to sell their fertilizers. So it's like usually one of the three. And I was like, which one is it going to be? And I'm like, it's someone selling chocolate. And so I ran downstairs, even though I was sick, but because I was bored, and I did not bother to change into anything. I didn't think of it. I flat out did not think about it. So there I opened the door looking really disheveled. I was just wearing my house coat, a pale green house coat, which is important because of complementary colors, if you catch my drift. Oh, the story is so funny to me. And it's true, it happened. Okay, so I open the door and I see the most beautiful man I have ever seen in my life, and he was wearing this beautifully tailored suit that fits him perfectly. It was this gray color. He had the most perfect hair that anybody could possibly have. It was just like, I can say that, like, yeah, attraction, like there's a science to it, and I was like, my goodness. Like, I then became very aware that I was not dressed appropriately, and I looked the worst that I could look. Um, and so I'm like, oh, it's a Jehovah Witness, you know, like, and then to my horror, he asked for my father's name. Yes, he had a meeting with my father, and I I was so like, "Oh my goodness." Like, I became very aware that I was like, "I'm naked under here. I shouldn't have done this. Why am I so crazy?" Okay. So I usher him in and I tell him I walk a few paces in front of him and I lead him to the backyard and then I run back up to my room. I'm like, and then I was like, okay, now is a good time. It's 2 p.m. Now is a good time to get dressed. So, to my absolute horror upon horror, yes, it was it was this big. It was like this big on a pale green robe. Well, green and red are complementary colors. And he was coming to be interviewed for to become a mason. A mason is this club for men. Well, like in Canada, only men join it. Okay, so there I was, answering the door with a giant blood stain. What could be more chaotically feminine than that? Like, what could be? It was it was a chaotic feminine thing to do, I guess. Um, and I thought to myself, you know what? I don't need to be embarrassed about this because I will never see this person again. And I forgot about it. And, like whatever, time moved on. Well, fast forward a few years, like 3 or 4 years, maybe less than that. I don't know. Uh, and then I'm at this party, and I didn't remember. I didn't think about it. I didn't remember that I'd answered the door, but he walked in and we met. We met again for the second time, but I didn't remember. I forgot about that. Like, I don't know, tucked it away, didn't think about it. So, anyways, I met him at a party and he was the most handsome person. Once again, there is a science to attraction. Like, it is not within your like ego's control. Like when you're attracted to somebody, it just happens. And I mean, it is a dangerous thing though, unfortunately. Um, so I fell in love at first sight, or I guess second sight. And well, really, it was both times. And so um, I met him, and I really, really liked him. I was attracted to him. I saw him as very cool. He was cool. He was charming. He was incredibly charming. And he was so good looking, and he was smart, and he had a really good job, and he was wealthier than me. I would say by a significant amount. Yeah, he was significantly wealthier than me. So, you know, and he was also older than me. Um, and had a lot more experience. So like when we went to do yoga or rock climbing, he was just so much better. Like, and I was like, wow, like look how good he is at this. And look at what he knows about gardening. And like I've always had a love for gardening because food is super important to me. And friends and having a network of people around me is so important to me. And he had those things and he was into gardening and he was into playing vinyl and I love music. I've always loved music because I've always used it to help regulate my emotions and to feel connected to my emotions and he was like just like and oh, I think we liked similar music and yeah. Like, I really liked him a lot. Of course I would. Why wouldn't I? Like, and he is so lovable. And I loved him a lot. But it wasn't long before I started to notice that there were like problems in our friendship. Like, it was in the early stages of getting to know somebody where, like, it's like, will they or won't they kind of situation. And it certainly was a situationship. He never asked me to be his girlfriend, so I wasn't his girlfriend. But I really liked hanging out with him, and he was so good at cooking. One time he made me this green smoothie that was so refreshing and delicious. Um, so I felt pretty hard, I guess. And I blame myself for that, and I shouldn't, but I do. Like, as if I could have stopped myself from liking him. I don't know. Could I have? Anyways, there were problems. There were problems. Like, it started off slowly, but then just increasingly got worse. Like, for example, not leaving me on red, not responding to direct questions I texted him, um, standing me up on plans that he had made with me a couple times. I knew it didn't take me long to be like, oh, like maybe this guy's just not into me. Okay, but like maybe we can be friends, and like I like him, and he has a solid group of friends around him, and it's somebody to go to concerts with. I didn't know that I was hurting myself as bad as I was. Or maybe it's better to say that I didn't know that I was getting so hurt. It was like putting my hand on top of the burner on a stove without knowing that you're burning your hand. Like, it's like as if you can't feel it, but your hand's being burnt. Like, or a better metaphor is like on a windy day at the beach. This is a really good metaphor for this. If you go to the beach on a windy day and you forget to wear sunscreen, there's a good chance that you're going to get sunburnt. And when the wind dies down and you come home and you start shaking and you start feeling like you're going to throw up, you know that you have sunstroke. Well, you didn't do it on purpose, did you? No, you didn't. Okay, you didn't know that the sun was burning you because you didn't feel it. You just got so sunburnt, but it's not really your fault because it was just an accident. And maybe next time you'll be more careful and you'll remember to wear sunscreen. That's kind of like what this relationship was like for me. I did not know that I was getting so hurt. And he introduced me to drugs. And he also, um, he, like, I know I didn't do too many drugs before I met him. And I've had to battle addictions since. I am sober now, but it wasn't easy going through that. I never thought that that would be a part of my life. I still carry around some shame that I'm working on with affirmations about that stuff. The pain is intense at times. The heartbreak of realizing that somebody you love doesn't love you or care about you or respect you is hard. It was easier for me to pretend that he loved me than to face the truth of the situation. He really, really hurt me, and he lied to me. And then, anyways, I think that he has his own issues, and I have empathy for that, but it's not my world to deal with. That's in his realm of his reality. So I'm only taking care of myself, but I certainly had empathy, and I do still, but I don't want to let that empathy trick me into what? Into like pretending that he loves me, because that's what happened, and that's what I did with that. No, what happened was he uh, he he told me that he had genital herpes right before the first time we had sex together, And I said it was okay as long as we were careful and used a condom. And anyways, so fast forward near the end of our relationship, but not at the very end, but near the end, um, we were having sex and he went to, well, just before, he went to put a condom on, but I noticed him move so that I could not see his penis. He moved so that I could not see his penis, and I don't know if am I allowed to say that. Well, I guess so. What's wrong with that word? Anyways, he moved so I couldn't see him, and he moved his hands as though he was putting on the condom. But in my mind, I had doubts, and I thought, well, if he's not wearing the condom, it would be in his hand, right? The way he was holding his hands. And then he put his hands underneath the pillow. And I thought, well, like then it would be underneath the pillow now. So I subtly checked, and sure enough, there the unused condom was there, and he hid the wrapper. And I did not contract genital herpes. But herpes is something that once you get it, it never goes away. It's a latent virus. So I was lucky enough that I did not contract herpes. But could you imagine the fear of that? Um, and such a visceral way to realize that somebody does not respect you at all. And I had a lot of blame for myself that I let that happen to me. I don't know if I let it happen to me or if it just happened. I don't know. But um, then I was very, very, very heartbroken. So the next day, I woke up and he was like, "Yeah, let's go get breakfast." And I was like, "I'll make you breakfast." And so I went into his kitchen and I made him a really bland breakfast because I don't really know how to cook very well. But I made him a really bland breakfast because I wanted to try on the role of wife. Like, if he was willing to do what he did, then that was like my retaliation in some way. And then um, what happened was uh, I asked him like, "What are we? What are we?" And he's like, and then he hesitated, and I thought, okay, like at this point, I don't think I had realized the significance of what he had done. I was definitely a bit numb feeling, but I hadn't really realized the significance of what that is and stealthing. Um, but I, I, uh, I didn't realize the significance. So I asked him what we were, and he hesitated, and I thought, okay, like he doesn't want to date me. That's fine. Like he doesn't have to. Now I know, and it's out there finally. Um, and so I said it was okay, and I was trying to give him an out, but then he's like, "Oh, Nicole, like I'm so bad at relationships. Can you give me a week so I can think it over?" I said yes. I thought chances are he's going to say no, but of course that kept the hope a little bit alive in me that he liked me and loved me, even though obviously. Um, so the week went by and he wasn't answering my texts and just leaving me on red, and then he did call me. Um, and he told me that it was like talking to a whole other. It was like there were two of him. There was like the cool version of him and the more authentic version of him, and he was talking in his cool voice, and he said that he just wasn't feeling it with me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was really hurt, but like I was also like with like how the relationship went with like the leaving on red, not responding to questions, ghosting, standing me up. Um, I became more and more reserved and more shy as I hung out with him. It's like the opposite of what relationships tend to do, right? And I couldn't really be myself around him at all. So like I don't know why I would want to date him if that was what was happening, but I still really did because I thought that we'd be able to get to know each other and I'd be able to trust him slowly and we'd be able to build our trust together and then I'd be able to be more myself and play with him. But that's not what happened. Um, and I there were parts of him that had integrity and there were parts of him that were wonderful, but he had issues and I had issues and it didn't work and it really hurt me. And then I realized, anyway, so I thought I'd still be his friend. So the relationship went on a couple more months after that, or maybe, yeah, like a month after that, 1 or 2 months after that went on. But then he had invited me over. We did mushrooms during the day, and um, and then at nighttime, he invited a couple people over, and we had a small party. And during that party, a woman called him and FaceTimed him, and he took the call and he introduced her to everyone except me, and then he went into his room, and I could hear how excited he was to talk to this other woman, and it was that really broke my heart. That really hurt a lot too. But it was a good thing. It was a good thing that that person called because I guess it's kind of what I needed to like walk away. I guess. Um, he uh, he came back out of his room a half an hour later and he turned down the music and he looked at me and in front of the other people that were there, he just said, he's like, yeah, that's he told me her name. He said, that's somebody I met while I was at a music festival. Um, and she's coming to visit me for a weekend next month. So I didn't introduce you to her because I thought it'd be a little awkward. And then he looked at me and he just said, and that's just the way it is. I don't think truer words have ever been spoken because that was the way it was. And I looked up at him and I gave him the most beautiful smile I could. And I just nodded. And I didn't go home yet. That I wanted to. I really wanted to while he was talking to her in his room. But I couldn't because I wasn't sober. So that really hurt. That really, really hurt. Um I knew he didn't like me, you know? I knew he didn't like me. Like I knew that he didn't want to be in a relationship with me. So I thought that I guess at the time I lied to myself and thought that I could be friends and maintain those boundaries of not letting myself love him or like him like that, but I couldn't. And the next day I called him and I told him that I said to him that I watch you staring at me because he used to randomly when we hang out he'd be like far off and I'd catch him staring at me and like he was like in deep contemplation and I at first I was like wow he's really considering whether he wants to be with me or not and that excited me but after a while it kept happening and I thought I'm just an option on the table. I'm just an option on the table. Like 7 of Cups. And so I told him that and I said that it hurt to hear how excited he was to talk to somebody else. And then he told me that we shouldn't see each other or be friends anymore because he was just going to hurt me. It's too late. I was already hurt. Um, and I thought that like it would have been nice if the story had ended there, I think. But I didn't really quite let it, and also I guess the universe didn't quite let it end there either. Um, so I made friends with one of his friends because I still wanted a friend to do drugs with, and none of my other friends did drugs, and I didn't want to smoke pot alone in my room. Um, so I made friends with one of his friends, and then um, who actually turned out to be a really good person, and we're still friends, and that's okay and good. But um, but yeah, there was that, and then there was. I don't think that was great for me because it didn't let me move on, and I guess part of me just didn't want to move on, so I didn't, and I blame myself for that. I'm sorry, Nicole. I didn't know I was getting so burnt. And then, you know, um, and then something happened which he doesn't know about, and nobody really knows about except me and my one friend. My friend, my friend had a she worked at a framing store, and this happened, I think, like at least 10 months after it had ended with that guy. And I was living alone in my own apartment, and I was working, and I had a really good job as an engineer, but I was really lonely, and I didn't like my job, and I was pretty scared, and I think probably the most depressed I've ever been in my life. But I was trying to move on, and I thought that I should try some online dating to help me to try and find other people who, might be good for me. Well, there are predators online, and I guess I wasn't really quite ready to get back out there. So this guy was really, really pushy with me, and I, at the time, because of what was happening in my life, I guess didn't recognize some of the warning signs, or maybe I did and just ignored them. I don't know. But I, I tried calling my friend who was working at a framing store because this guy was really being pushy with me, and I should have just blocked him. I wish I had, but I didn't. And anyways, I tried calling her because she was really like had done a lot of online dating and told me all these different one night stands she'd had, and so I tried calling her because I wanted to ask her like what she thought about what he was saying to me, and she didn't answer the phone because she had a customer. And like 99% of the time when she was working, I knew I could call her because most of her job was making the frames, and she was able to talk on the phone while doing that, but not when a customer was in the store. So I called her and she didn't answer. Okay, I didn't think anything of it. That turned into, well, basically, I did go and see him and I did have a date with him, and it did not go well. And it ended up with him being in prison for 4 years. So you can imagine how that went. It was scary, it was dramatic, it hurt me. She didn't know that that had happened to me. Um, and one day I was seeing her like a couple weeks right after it had happened. And she's like, "Oh, Nicole, you called me a couple weeks ago while I was at the framing store." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I did." And she's like, you'll never guess who I was helping and why I couldn't answer the phone. And I'm like, "What? Like who?" It was the guy I was in love with who didn't want to be with me, who had stealthed me, introduced me to drugs, and I was so, because he was in the store, she didn't answer the phone. If he hadn't been at that framing store at that moment and she would had answered the phone, I really think that I wouldn't have gotten hurt by that person when I went on a date with them. And I don't think he'd be in prison right now, actually. Um, he was a dangerous person. He was a sick person, but I was so confused by that for so long. And I still am confused. I don't know if I believe in coincidences. And I wondered about past lives. I really did. He doesn't know. And he doesn't know that like that was an impact. How could he? He didn't do anything wrong at that moment. He just was at a framing store. Nothing's wrong with that. But it seemed to me to be unfair by the universe. It seemed to be unfair that that happened, and I felt like I felt betrayed by God, that God didn't protect me. And he doesn't know, he doesn't know that, and I guess he'll never know. So, unless you do watch my videos, in which case, now you know. Healing is like this, I'm not sure why, but sometimes healing is painful. And I've been healing and focusing on myself and healing for a long time. Um, I have empathy for people who are going through drug addictions, or there are lots of different ways to cope. Some are mm, some hurt you. There are coping mechanisms that hurt you, but you need to do it because you have to cope with something else, right? Like, so I coped with it, and then I healed some more, and now I'm sober. But I wonder about the psychedelics. Like, that's one thing that like has also been a theme in my life about normalizing the use of drugs, recreational drugs, and psychedelics can be crazily dangerous. They can cause people to they can trigger people to have schizophrenia. I think there's evidence to suggest that if you're going to get schizophrenia, it'll happen anyways, but it can happen a lot sooner if you do psychedelics. So that's a huge risk for the first time you do psychedelics. Um, I don't have schizophrenia, but I think that a continued use of vaping things like DMT can significantly alter how you think and feel. And I'm not sure about the long term impacts that will have on my life. Um, but there were times when I used to, I don't know, I'd be vaping DMT for hours every day. So, and like for a couple years. So, drugs aren't cool. They're not. Maybe that won't have an impact. I mean, I'm still able to have a full time job. I'm still able to think and read and do everything that I need to do. Um, but I'll say like pot and DMT have been two things, and I don't. DMT is a medicine, but you can misuse it, and I think I did, and I'm sorry. I wish that I didn't do that, and I don't know. Maybe it's not exactly his fault that that happened because I was an active participant myself. At least that's what he told me one time. And anyways, I didn't mean to create chaos for him, and I didn't mean to create chaos for myself. I understand that he is somebody who is very scared of being abandoned in his life, or maybe he never told me that, so maybe I shouldn't say that, but I think that's what's going on with him, and I'm sorry. I am for any part my soul had to play in that, and I'm sorry to myself for the love that I gave away so freely. Anyways, now I am focusing on giving that love to myself through affirmations. So let's do some affirmations after that heaviness. I love you, Nicole. You are valuable. You are significant. You matter. You have a purpose. This is true for anyone watching this video as well. You matter. You are significant. You have a purpose. You are lovable. God loves you. This is true for all of us. You matter. You are significant. You have a purpose. You are an artist, Nicole. And one day, probably sooner than you think, your art will be hanging in a gallery. I promise you. Believe it because it's true. You are an artist. You will find success and you will create beautiful works of art you already have and you continue to do so. You can do it. You are doing it. You are an artist. And you're an engineer and you're good at it. You are healing. You will continue to heal. You are whole. You are always whole, even as you heal. Toby definitely needs to go for a walk, so I think I might end this very shortly. I've noticed him in the background, and yeah, don't worry. I will take him for a walk. Okay. That was really heavy. I think I will post this one. I don't know if I'll keep it up for very long because it is the trauma. It is the trauma and I am healing from it and this is part of my healing process. And I am doing it openly and publicly for a lot of reasons. Okay. I love you, Nicole. I love you a lot. You are well. You feel well. Your body feels light. You have you will have a good sleep tonight. You will have a good day. You are having a good day. Your body feels well. Your body feels strong. You are strong. You are creative. The creativity is flowing through you. You are doing well. And I love you. I love you so much. And I am with you. And I will always be with you because I love you so much unconditionally. No matter what happens, no matter what you do or don't do, I will always be with you. And I love you significantly. You are significant. You matter. You have a purpose. And you are so loved. You are so, so loved. And I love you. I love you so much. And that means something, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Because I know. I know that you hurt. And I know that you suffer sometimes. God doesn't want you to suffer. God loves you. And you are beautiful. You are the most beautiful person I've ever seen. Okay. That was really heavy. Um, I will try to warn. I hope I did at the beginning of this video. I don't remember. I took a couple takes for this one, so hopefully I did do it. I guess I'll put it in the description too. Anyways, I am doing fine. To the people who follow me and watch me and understand the value of this content, um, thank you so much for facilitating this as I heal. And I, I appreciate you greatly. You've made it fun for me to heal. That's really saying something because healing can be so hard, but it's also political. It's a profound political thing to take care of yourself and to give yourself what you need. So I think it's even political to have children. Anyways, okay, that's like ideas for future videos. Peace out, Girl Scout. Life is beautiful. The world and the universe is supporting us. And it is a crazy challenge. I'll tell you that. It is a challenge. But I think we should continue. I think we should continue to live our lives every single day and to show up to this world every single day because that is profound. And that is what everyone wants to do, actually, deep down in their soul. And I know it should be true. So I will continue to show up every day to my life. And there are profoundly joyous moments and beautiful moments. And in those moments, I know that it is worth it. And I will continue to work towards creating a beautiful life for myself and for the world. Okay. Peace out, Girl Scout. I love you a lot. I really do. We'll talk soon.